Hello and welcome to this broadcast of Running on Love with God with Lori Michelle and my lovely co-host Anna Marie from Chicago. Hi Anna Marie, how are you?
Hi.
Today's program is called Why is Bullying the Seeds of Terror? And it's a very important topic because it's true. The seeds of bullying are the seeds of terror because it comes from the same place. It comes from evil. And it's very important that we teach our children how to behave and how to love at a very young age, because as they grow older, they become bullies, not only in school, but in the workplace, in marriage, in life. And I didn't pick this topic myself. If you've been watching this program for a while, you know and understand that I was awakened to the voice of our Creator, God Himself, in April of 2009. And He said, go get pen and paper and start writing. And I did. And I hear Him fluently in the English language. And this is my calling, to share His wisdom with you. And He told me to pick this very topic. And I had no idea how timely it was until last night when I saw a video that I will bring up in just a moment. But before I bring up this video that I saw on YouTube that was very shocking, I want to say that I have been the victim of bullying in my lifetime from the time I was a small child, but not just a victim of bullying from other children, but from adults. And Hashem, God, and I prepared for this program, and He brought up a couple of instances that He wanted me to share on this program where how we treat our children will affect them deeply throughout their lifetime. And He brought up two occasions. One was in first grade. I was a very sensitive little girl, and I used to cry very easily. And I had a first grade teacher who used to complain to my mother that I was too sensitive and I cried too easily. And she very purposefully tried to toughen me up. And she used to be very mean to me and call me out in class for things that I never did, just to toughen me up and make me cry and make me harder. And she thought she was doing me a favor, but she was being a first-class bully. And later on, Hashem God brought up another example. In the 5th grade, I was entering puberty, and like a lot of young girls, I got my first bra. And it was humiliating, really, because when you go through puberty, you're embarrassed. So I went to school that day with my new bra on and, trying to keep it a secret. And my teacher, my 5th grade teacher, a woman, I wanted to die, literally. I saw her make a beeline for me, and I was scared. What is she noticing about me? And she went behind me and took her finger and ran her finger down my back to touch my bra strap to let me know that she knew my secret. Now, that may not sound like bullying to anyone else, but the definition of bullying is in the picture that I posted. And Anna Marie, can you hold up the picture that I posted of this little girl? And it says, bully, using superior strength or influence to intimidate others, to torment. Bullying is the seeds of terror. And the little girl is sitting behind her computer with a stop sign because there's a lot of bullying going on now in social media. I didn't have social media to contend with when I was a child. And you could see the distress on this little girl's face. But that's exactly what this teacher did to me that day. She tormented me. And she was being a bully. Now, fast forward to now, over the weekend, last night actually, I was directed to a video that was on YouTube, and it was from Chicago, Illinois, the University of Chicago. There was a protest against, Anne-Marie, can you bring up the name?
Lewandowski. It's Corey Lewandowski.
Yes. he was speaking there, and there was a crowd, and you could see outside this video. I took a picture of a frame of the video, but if you go to YouTube and you put in the search field Trump Pinata Chicago, this video will come up, and you can see parents standing around their children who are beating a pinata made in the likeness of Donald Trump. And it's appalling. And they're all cheering, and they're yelling, "No fascism, no prejudice," and all kinds of terrible things about the president. But what they were doing is goading their children. You could see this little boy decapitated Donald Trump's pinata, and his head went flying, and the parents put their hands up into victory, cheering as the children beat up a likeness of our president. Whether you like him or not, he's the president of the United States. And then there's another frame, Anna Marie, if you could hold that up. Afterwards, the children were goaded into tearing apart the body of the pinata, Donald Trump's body, and they're gathering candy on the ground. And the reason that this frame was so important to me to print was because I recall 9/11, and I recall the towers coming down and thousands of people dying that day. And on the news, there were people in Jersey City, Muslims, cheering as those towers came down. And they were handing out candy, celebrating the death and murder of thousands of Americans and other nationalities. I'm sure there were foreigners, but thousands of people were burning to death that day. And they were handing out candy in celebration. But as a country, we united and we were appalled. And it was very easy to point at these people and say, "You are filthy, you're a terrorist, how could you celebrate that?" But here we are now in 2017 looking at American parents. University of Chicago, I think that's a very prestigious university, am I right? Yes, Anna Marie? Yeah. Celebrating their children decapitating a likeness of the President of the United States and then eating candy out of their conquest. Does this sound eerily similar to you, Anna Marie? Is this incredible?
Yeah, I'm absolutely shocked. I don't think the parents were thinking.
Well, no, and that's what this program is about. I don't know these people who were in this video. They weren't covering their faces. They were very proud of what they were doing. But I hope that somehow this video presentation, this program, gets in their hands. Why? Because on 9/11, we were appalled, and rightfully so, that people could celebrate and hand out candy when people were dying, right? And they're celebrating. And what are these people doing? They're protesting against prejudice and teaching their children evil hatred. And when you're against somebody, it's okay to take a stick and decapitate them and then celebrate that you did and eat candy. I don't see any difference at all. Do you? They will argue there's a difference.
Right, because they'll say what they're doing is symbolic, and they're not actually saying you should decapitate a person, you should decapitate their ideas.
Well, I say, if you live in a glass house, don't throw stones. And I would say that the people who celebrated the towers that came down and all those people died are people who were raised by families who were told that the people are persecuting their families in the Middle East. They were raised with hatred. They were raised to hate the Americans. They're being raised to hate. They're saying death to America. America is the cause of our problems. And when they see Americans suffer, they celebrate and hand out candy. So what did these American parents do? They handed a stick to their child and said, we don't like the president. Beat him up and let's celebrate that you decapitated the villain. Figuratively, but it's not that far removed, is it? 10, 20 years from now, that child's raised with hatred. 10 years from now, how do you know that child isn't going to hear hatred growing up in his home, and then 10 years from now, actually take a weapon and, God forbid, do harm to someone that they don't like how they're speaking and what they stand for?
Okay, can you talk a little bit about the difference between bullying and free speech?
We have the right, thank you for bringing that up, because I said that in my preview. I had a video that I put up online about this program, and I said that there's a lot of people, like the people in the video at University of Chicago, who are hiding under the banner of free speech. You're allowed to criticize the president, but when you criticize the president, pick the forum and pick the appropriate way to voice your discontent. Is it appropriate to incite a violent activity, whether it's figuratively or metaphorically, and celebrate violence against the person that you're protesting? Absolutely not. That is equivalent to going into a theater, in my opinion, and screaming fire when there is none, right? Or inciting, getting people riled up and potentially getting them into a fevered hatred, a crowd mentality. We've seen this, right? And next thing you know, and we've seen this in America, and maybe you can give some examples where people are protesting, maybe it's peaceful, they get riled up, next thing you know, they're overturning cars and lighting them on fire and breaking windows. So that's not free speech, right?
No, it's not. And I can give you another much smaller example, but I was talking with a woman yesterday who's in a very customer service-oriented profession, and she says that when clients come in, they'll just automatically start talking to her, raging against the president, talking about protesting the president, as if, of course, she agrees with them, and she has no choice but to just let them rant because she can't afford to offend a customer. So in the end, it's not free speech because they're just spewing their views. And how do they think that's going to work? They don't know what she thinks. They won't let her talk.
Right. Now, God forbid she does say what she means or what she feels. They're going to be angry with her. We had this whole, prior to the election, if you spoke in favor of voting for him, and you had, and I had many friends. I had more friends because I used to be what I considered liberal. I voted Democratic my whole life. But I've seen the deterioration of the United States of America and problems, and I'm afraid for our safety. So I voted for Donald Trump. But when I told people that were my friends what I did, they turned against me. They turned on me. And that's bullying. That's when free speech. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, I call that social bullying because they're counting on you having good manners and keeping quiet in order to get their point made.
Exactly. But Anna Marie, bullying is a tactic that eventually backfires. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that in the world. Terrorists and dictators, they win for a while. Hitler won for a while. Where's Hitler now? right? Maniacal dictators, they win for a while, and then eventually they're overthrown, and God willing, goodness prevails. And we're now in a state in our world where it's been prophesized about, and I'm bringing God back into it because this program is called Running on Love with God, and I hear him. These are the end of days right now, prophecy. And what we're seeing is evil and hatred in a bigger proportion, in a louder proportion than goodness and God. And the mere mention of godliness and goodness is evoking this hatred, these gatherings where people are being vicious. And I said this a few weeks ago in a program, using language like love trumps hate is really the hatred that you're really against. And where we need to come together is to open our eyes, as painful as this program might be for those parents in Chicago, and see the error of what they did and be horrified and humiliated and embarrassed about teaching their children evil hatred and how that should be rewarded with candy and celebration. Whether you like Donald Trump or not, your freedom of speech is not teaching your children to take a stick to a likeness of the President of the United States.
Right, and also I think freedom of speech does not mean that you shut down speech from others, because that's what the social bullying is, where you're not allowed to make your point, like you said, where people refuse to talk to you when they heard what your views were. So that doesn't encourage discussion. It doesn't bring people together to any kind of understanding.
Now, last week we had a program about the travel ban and all of the different immigration policies and how they're calling Trump a hater and a Nazi. And this week is about bullying, and he's been accused of being a bully. But what I want to bring light to is this is not a pro-Trump program. This is a program about God and about turning the light switch on, about opening our eyes and seeing things for the realness and the reality of what we're really looking at. Because the people in Chicago, those parents, you said it in the beginning of the program, don't realize what they're really choosing. They think they're against fascism and prejudice, but they're teaching the very thing that they're against. So be careful about what you're against, and what we need to do is open our eyes and choose more carefully. I told this story to someone today on the street in Theyre, and I said, I saw this video, and I was appalled by it. And she brought up, she said this, and I agree. She said, if that was a pinata of Barack Obama, those people would have been arrested. There would have been a 1 million person march on Washington. They would have burned down University of Chicago. So there's a double standard going on. But what we have to understand is, and I said this last week, is at the core and the essence of every American, I believe, not every American, there are people who are truly rotten inside and out, but very few, thank God. But most people are really decent, good people. And I'm sure that away from that situation, with that pinata, any one of those people could be my friend, right? They're good people. At the core, that's motivating them is their goodness. But it's like Night of the Living Dead right now. It's like they're bitten by this bug and they're caught up in this momentum of hating Donald Trump and being against him and these protests. And it's a crowd-like bullying frenzy, and they're not thinking straight. Who in their right mind would raise their children like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. I have a two-part question. I'll give you the first part first. How do we recognize our own bullying behavior and tendencies? Because obviously these parents aren't recognizing what they're doing.
The best way to recognize when you're choosing wrong, and it's difficult because in the moment you don't realize, but is to reflect back and put yourself in that other person's position, right? Or to see it through someone else's eyes, to watch the video. And I saw this posted, and it was talking in a negative way about the video. The video that was posted, they weren't saying flattering things about these people. They were calling them out on it. And sometimes, that's the best way, is that these parents in the moment, they didn't know, obviously. They look like my neighbors. They look like my friends. But watching the video, I would hope there's something in them that says, wow, did I do that? I didn't see it from that point of view. The best thing to do is what I said weeks ago in every program, and I'm going to sound like a broken record, and that makes me sound old because there's no broken records anymore, but, right? You got to peel it apart. You got to be discerning. You've got to peel the layers of the smelly onion, because you got to get inside. And every time you choose something, you've got to analyze, what am I saying? How is it being received? If this was on television, how would I be viewed? If I was President Trump, and I know nobody wants to think that way, how would I feel? If I was Ivanka Trump, the president's daughter, how would I feel if I saw a video of my father and his likeness and a pinata being beaten like that, and children eating candy and pulling the body of my father apart? Just saying those words, if that's not enough to make you ill and rethink what you did and feel humiliated, I really don't know how far their mind has gone the wrong way. I watched this last night, and I sent it to you before this program so that you could print out those pictures. I literally wanted to throw up on my iPhone. I was so horrified because it conjured up those feelings that I had on the day that a friend of mine died at the World Trade Center. There were people handing out candy. And I'm not saying those people they were right, but now, fast forward, can you understand how bullying can become terrorism?
Yes. The second part of my two-part question is, how do we respond to bullying? For example, you said that people just wouldn't talk to you. So silence doesn't stop the bullying, or does it?
No. The truth of the matter is, Anne-Marie, you have to take a stand. And bullying is not just in childhood, but it follows you into the workplace. I have been bullied in the workplace. Before I worked with you many years ago, before I worked with you, I had a sales position in a large company in New York, and I was one of the top salespeople. And the manager who hired me was blown away. I just loved what I was doing. It was one of those jobs that was very easy. And right out of training, I became like the second salesperson out of 80 in the whole country. And I started getting a lot of recognition from the national sales manager. And my manager who hired me invited the whole office to his home for a Christmas party. And I was, a new hire, and I thought he'd be happy with me. He's my sales manager. He's making overrides on everything I'm selling. Well, he had a few too many to drink. And I was 23 years old at the time. I was a baby. And here I'm thinking, like Pollyanna, oh, he must really like me. I'm doing really well. And he got really drunk, and in front of everybody, looked at me, pointed his finger at me. I have a tissue, I'll put it down. Pointed his finger at me, and he said, I'm really happy I hired you. You're amazing, but I want you to know, no bleeping woman with the F in front of it will ever take my job. Pointing at me. And everybody in the room, the whole office was there. It was 10, 15 people, was shocked. No one said a word. It took the air right out of the room. And I looked at him. I was so naive, and I looked at him and I said, I don't want your job. I was stunned. I wasn't upset. I wasn't even scared. I was just, why is he saying this? So what I'm saying is, how did I treat that? I ignored it. I did really well. And the next thing I know, I was working with you in Minnesota. I left that company, but I never spoke of it, and I left. But that kind of bullying is in the workplace. You have sexual harassment is bullying. You have marriages where one partner is controlling the other and threatening them. Who are you with? Why did you spend that money? I told you not to, they're checking everything you're spending. They're very controlling behavior. And it depends on the situation, but you have to learn how to build your muscle up, and you need to learn to stick up for yourself, and you need to learn how to walk away. If it's a marriage, if it's a job, you need to be able to have the courage. You have to be very courageous. But if you're alone, it's a lot harder. So if you're in a dangerous situation, you need parents, or you need a spouse, or you need a friend. It's good to get help when you're dealing with a dangerous bullying situation. I've been in dangerous bullying situations where my father, when I was a kid, had to get involved and take care of it for me. So how do you deal with bullying? You don't take it. You either walk away quietly, if that's the best way, or you stand up for yourself and you get help if you need it.
If you walk away, aren't you letting them win?
Oh, we have 90 seconds. What's this last question?
Okay, I said if you walk away from a bully, aren't you letting them win?
No. And that's the biggest misnomer. Sometimes there's an expression that I learned, and I'm going to invoke Wayne Dyer again. He said in one of his books, I can choose peace instead of this. You don't need to win every fight. And you don't have to have the last word every time, although I do. I'm one of those people I like to, but sometimes you got to walk away because you need peace. And with that, I want to thank you for joining this program of Running on Love with God. And please go to runningonlovewith.org and click on donate and support this program. Running on Love, the charity, is the work of world peace, because you see it's through listening and learning and charity and love that we will come together and unite as the family that we're meant to be and learn how to get it right. And we'll earn world peace in our time, God willing. So thank you for joining us, and God bless you, and may there be peace on earth. God bless you.